Thank you. I got to start over. Good morning, everyone. This session is rendered media in Drupal 7 and Drupal 8. My name is Henry Plez. This is the first time I've given this talk, so we'll see how it goes. I hope that you will be with me, and I hope that this is a little bit of a conversation about some of the difficulties of rendering media in Drupal 7 and 8. I have found it a challenge. I found some things that kind of work for me, but I hope that you'll share your experiences and talk a little bit about some of the things that you're concerned about as you come to this session. So on that note, I tend to mix things up a little bit. And so I'm interested in if anybody would be willing to share a challenge that they're having rendering media in either Drupal 7 or Drupal 8.
I don't know, for me, it just there's just so many pieces of the puzzle to
Right.
get things together and also make things reusable easily. So
Yes.
That's always been a challenge for me.
Yes, you don't want to reduplicate all the steps that you took to render something in the first place for many, many different pieces of content.
Yeah, or something like having nodes where you have to upload the same image twice.
Right,
Like that.
right. Are you more concerned about images or?
Probably all of it.
Probably all of it, okay. Somebody else have a concern that they've had, a problem that they've had?
I don't have a specific problem, but I work with a lot of churches who post audio and video every week, and so I thought it'd be really helpful to hear some of the perspectives and problems and solutions that are available today.
Okay. One of the problems that I've had is that I do development, but I approach things often as a site builder, and I don't want to be developing in order to build my sites. And so finding input processes that are clean and bug-free and user-friendly has been a challenge for me as also. So we'll look at some of those things, and I hope that you'll talk more about some of the problems that maybe you see in the way I've approached it, or some of the benefits, or some ideas that you might bring to the table about what works well or better. My history is I come to this from a slightly different place. I started working with Drupal several months before DrupalCon Chicago and kind of plunged myself into that deep, murky water and was with all of these people who were talking about hooks and templates and all kinds of things that I didn't understand. But I just hung in there and listened and started to grow and started to build things. Before that, I had been working with Joomla and then another product called Typo 3 that is very popular in Europe. So I built up my knowledge base, and I've worked for several agencies here in the Chicago area. A couple of people are involved in the companies that I've been associated with, and I thank them for being here. But I've also worked for some nonprofits, for Rotary, for the AMA, for universities and colleges. But I really came to Drupal out of a need to support my passion, both financially and technologically. And so you might ask, what's this passion? And I'm a classically trained tenor. I actually studied at University of Illinois in Champaign-Urbana and then went to Northwestern University. And I perform a lot in the area. Nobody knows me big name, but certain people know who I am and listen to my stuff. And as I've gone on this journey, I've been trying to find a way both to support myself, of course, by doing Drupal work, but also kind of good and user-friendly ways to expose my work on my website and on the websites of other people that do what I do. So what's the technology problem with this? Is that typically with Drupal sites, we're very focused on the textual content and typography and design elements like that, but we're not so focused on how an artist might expose themselves. For a visual artist, a little easier because most firms deal well with design and display of images, but we're not so great about display of video and display of audio. And both of those are really important. So entered rendered media. And so the session objective is to begin a conversation starting by looking at tools I've used for my own approach to this problem. I hope others in the room may have ideas or tools that have been effective for them, and let's talk about those too. And finally, let's talk about what's blocking us from moving forward faster with this work with rendered media in Drupal 7 and Drupal 8. So, So let's take a look at my website. Okay, at the top I have a menu with home, biography, upcoming events, a link called Thankful, Media, and Contact. And I'm going to look first at the media link here. And what I've done is, this site is built using Panoply and with a theme called Kala Theme. Kala Theme has focused their effort on making Bootstrap a very accessible and easy configurable theme to use with Panoply, and ties in very nicely with a lot of the Panoply features for end user interface. And what I've done is basically created content that is saved as unlimited with unlimited content fields, or sometimes as individually, and I use views to collect those items together. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the back end. So here we have the normal administrative panel. The first thing I had to deal with was, how do I collect these items together? And one of the problems is oftentimes I want to collect many of them together. So I had to find a couple different options for how that's going to work. This is a new gallery that I've created. And it's actually using a module called Gallery that allows me to collect images together as one upload. And it's a little kludgy to get going here. It allows me to set kind of some display options, but once you save that, it allows you to add media, and sometimes this add media disappears. That's why I kind of fuddled around there. But the reason I'm using this is it's the only method that I have found to, as a contrib module, to take a group of files and upload them together. Has anybody else dealt with that issue? I see a head nodding back there and one here also. Is this the method that you've found to kind of solve this problem?
What's the module?
It's called Gallery. It's simply called Gallery. And it allows you to create this display of rows and columns, but the only reason that I'm using it, I don't want to use that display. What I want is a simple and easy method just to upload all my files. So it's a contrib module called Gallery.
I don't know if it does exactly the same thing, but I've always just used just an image field with multiple.
Yeah, it doesn't, well, and then you can use something like Plu Upload. And what I found is, and what seems to be documented on the net, is that it's then very difficult to get that to work together to upload a bundle.
Okay.
And so that's why I've implemented this method. So I'm going to go to a folder where I have some pictures here. This is an old version of my site that has a lot of different pictures. Okay, we'll just take those. And it sets that up with this display. Okay, that's cool, except I don't want it to display that way on my media page. So what I've done here instead, I think I saved a saved an audio file. And I'm not finding a remove button. Okay, well, we'll leave that. If I go back to the media page, I had the gallery that I had before, which is showing here, but then I have this also smaller gallery that's just showing these 5 images here. And I've just formatted a view to take these and display out that slideshow that way. So if I look here at views, and I edit this media gallery, you'll see that I have a display for image gallery, which looks for the content gallery. I have an audio player, which we'll look at in a minute. And I also have a video gallery that's in another view. And so that was my solution for getting this photo display to happen. There is another, so what I'm using here in addition to panels is also media, the media module, and also the file entity module. File entity allows you to collect entities of different types: audio, video, images, documents, and allow you to put meta settings on those file types and then associate them as content. Then media allows for the creation of a kind of library that's accessible. And so when I go and I want to add something to a gallery, I have this interface that allows me to add those files. This is the media module is what creates this interface to upload and get things from the web. Now, what's cool about the media module is that it also provides a method to use URI schemes so that you can connect to media that's available in Vimeo, YouTube, Brightcove, other streaming repository systems. It has an API that allows you to speak to those systems and collect that information and pull it in. So that's what I'm doing with my videos. If I edit this video library, I'm able to browse and attach media. And here, if I have a YouTube clip, oops. Oh, there it is. Okay. I can just grab this link here. And add it into my website. So I've added this one again. So that's my process to add content in to start to use that in terms of audio, video. Now the audio view is a little different. So here in the selection of fields for your view, you have the option to choose a formatter. And these formatters are built in as you start to enable contrib modules on your site. And so I've chosen, it seems like the best mix of things for my implementation of my site is to use the inline player, but I've also used this 360 player. And that changes that so it outputs my audios in this. So I can kind of create a jukebox, if you will, for the media that I'm presenting on my website. There's a panels aspect to this. So after I've collected the media that I want to expose, then I create views that allow me to expose that as individual components, as an audio component, as a video component, or as a slideshow gallery. Then also I'm using panels here. I don't know what to do. I'm going to edit this gallery so it's unpublished. I'm not getting that garbage. Okay.
Another way to fix that would turn off the overlay module.
Okay. Good point. So I'm doing these updates and changes on a local instance of this website. And on publishing, also remove that other one that was causing the problem. So here I'm using panels to create the layout of the elements. And this is where I see maybe something like paragraphs becoming a stronger rendering engine for certain pages, possibly. So I've created a panel layout for the page that gives me a sidebar, content header, and 2 columns underneath that. And then I'm just laying out my sections in those where I want them to lay out in the page. So I have an audio player that is at the top of the sidebar. I've put some separator here just as a text panel here to give me my video label. And then I've put exposed those same videos as actually these are content settings. So in panels you can, or Panoply, you can add, if I go up here to this gear, I can add content. And I've got all of these different types of content types that I can add. One of them is reusable content. It's not what I want. I can add content items. And here I can specify a piece of content. I don't even know what I have here. This is also sometimes does not work as effectively as I would like. Sometimes I have to choose full content instead of fields to actually find the element that I'm looking for. That seems to be a Panoply issue, but I found workarounds for dealing with that. So if I update and preview, seems like it wants me to save here. Yeah. There's my piece of content there. And I could have changed that to be display as actually the rendered video. Let's see what I need to do here to do that. I've made a mistake in how I added that, so I'm going to leave that alone. So that's basically how I've put together this display of media in my website. I've also used some Panelizer to add elements to individual rendered content. So here, if I choose Panelizer, and look at the default content, here I've created a situation where there's a gallery file, there's a gallery file that is included as content associated to that piece of content. So when I call up that piece of content, it also displays that video. So, does this seem familiar? Do you see some of the problems that I'm challenged with? Are you also challenged with some of those problems? Can anybody speak to any of that? Are you using rendered media?
I'm actually not even sure what rendered media means.
Oh, okay. How many people are in that same boat? Okay. So rendered media is that we have files, MP3 audio files, OGG files, WAV files, video files, and we want to take those things and make them usable as content on the internet. Well, it's not just enough to have the file. You have to explain to your web operating system how to play that thing. And so rendered media is about taking those files and applying appropriate software to them that allows them to be seen on your website. So the steps to do that in Drupal are a little tricky. It requires several elements of technology. One is this thing that I call the file entity module that allows you to pull all those things up into the web and onto your website. But then there's also the issue of how do you reuse that stuff? How do you go back and connect to it? How do you go back to connect to an audio file that you've already uploaded and you want to use in another place? So that's where the media module comes in. And then finally, there's the issue of actually playing that module, having the software in the background that allows that that file to be played. And so that's what we're dealing. Those are all the aspects that we're dealing with when we talk about rendered media. What kind of sites are you working with?
Well, we just, I work for the member organization, so it's just our one site, really.
Okay.
We, do embedding YouTube
Okay.
videos, and otherwise it's really just images. We don't have audio.
Okay. Are you a content builder or you're a developer? What do you consider yourself?
I'm definitely not a developer. I've played around with Drupal enough to, to create content types and stuff, but generally speaking, I have a front-end developer pretty much builds what we need.
Okay. So you're probably not so privy about how he plugs all of that stuff in so the video gets rendered.
Right. Well, in the case of the video thing, mostly I'm just taking whatever embed code comes from YouTube and putting it inside.
Okay.
It's a Drupal 6 site also, so.
Okay. So you're inputting it directly into the body.
Yeah. The one area where there's an exception is we have sort of a slideshow thing where we can just put in the YouTube key, and then he's figured out a way to go and tap into their API.
Sure. So my challenge in my work is I work with other performers who wouldn't know what an embed code is or how to set that up. So my challenge is to create easy user-friendly ways in order to do this process without some of the problems that you've already seen that I have here. Go ahead.
So related to that, I think I think you showed it a little while ago, but you use some sort of module that allows you to basically just paste in a YouTube URL, basically, and then it actually figures out what the embed code should be for you. Is that, There's a number of different modules that do that kind of thing. I think it's like the embed module or the embed YouTube module or something, and those all work with the media module. Is that right?
Some of that is built. Some of that functionality is built into the media module, and some of it is added as additional contrib modules. Okay. So media provides you with kind of a base framework and an API in which to build other modules that can then communicate over that channel.
It definitely does make it easy though for what you're talking about, because then you can just either if they paste the embed code in or just the URL to the actual video page, like Drupal automatically figures out basically what that little embed string is, and then basically just makes the embed code.
Yeah, that's one of the easiest, one of the nicest pieces of functionality is that I found was the ability to take different URL strings from different streaming services and allow them to be just input into a field, and then Drupal or the media module takes care of the rest of rendering all of that stuff. So that's been really helpful. So if you look here, I've got several media modules installed. I've got the original media module. There's a piece of functionality called Media Browser Plus that, when working with something like Plu Upload, allows you to pull up. That's what gives you this functionality where you have a box and you can add multiple files. Okay, and it does there's some other functionality that's available with that. This is a media gallery. It's not the same as the gallery module that I was showing you before. I've actually forgotten what that does.
I think that's the media browser thing when you use the media selector system, or if you look through the media library when selecting media. But anyway.
What modules are you using to render the audio and the video on your page? Like, we have a number of files of archive audio and video, and they want me to build out a page sort of featuring like a historical page,
right,
featuring all. And I don't know like what module or group of modules.
So one of the modules that I took advantage of is the media set, but also Sound Manager. Okay, so there's this library that is specifically devoted to providing a widget for you to play sound, and that's Sound Manager. And it comes by default with kind of 3 display formats that it supports, but you can customize it and make other display formats that you want to. But that was an extremely easy product to use, adding that both into the libraries folder and then Sound Manager as a contrib module into the modules folder, and enabling those, and works pretty much out of the box.
Is there a similar one for video?
So you've got media, and then there's media YouTube and media video. And actually, if you go to the media module site, there's a huge list of contrib modules that are basically inputs for that media API. Here, wiki page for all media related modules. Okay. So there's JW Platform here. SoundCloud is here. So that's another service that people often use, is they input their audio into SoundCloud and then use Drupal in the same way that I'm using YouTube to expose that stuff. Any other questions?
I saw you were using media YouTube and media Vimeo, and I don't know if you can speak to this or if anyone else has an experience with whether you'd want to use that over media embed. I mean, what's the advantage? I realize embed allows you to bring in more providers because there are complications that come with doing that.
I haven't used embed.
Well, I was just kind of curious if
Yeah.
anyone here had.
Yeah, I specifically, most of the service that I take advantage of is YouTube. It's really easy, or Vimeo. I haven't had the need to. I was in a situation where there were some folks using Bright Cove, and I found that kind of difficult to use. Maybe it would have been easier using something like, because there's a specific media contrib module devoted to Bright Cove. It was fairly complex to get configured. Maybe something like embed might have been easier.
Yeah, I've got a little experience with that. So embed is really useful when you just want to get embeds from a lot of different places and you're fine with the default rendering of it. The specific modules like Media YouTube give you some more granular functionality as to how to render those things. So Media YouTube will let you go into the file entity and say, on this page I want to render this YouTube video as a video, but on this other page I want to render the YouTube video as the thumbnail linked to the video. And you can set the controls on those thumbnails and how the previews are generated, how that different stuff comes through. And I think I haven't used the embed module too much either, but I think it doesn't have as much granular functionality as like per provider.
Does it add a lot of weight in terms of the amount of code that's adding to add all those different providers, or is it relatively simple?
No. The whole embed is a really cool thing, but basically it's a standard kind of thing. It says like every provider that supports it, given a URL, here's what you return, and so it's a standard. Every provider has their own implementation, just like a different Drupal kind of content types each have their own different kind of way they're displayed. So YouTube's embed code is different from Vimeo's, is different from SoundCloud's, but it all comes through as like an iframe that goes into your site.
There's also a remote stream wrapper that I've used that was effective. So if you have a file, you can use it actually on your local site and use that media module or contrib module to take the URL from that site and expose it on your site. So if you have it in a different location, you can use it for that, but you can also use it to display media that you might have on your own served on your own server. So that was very helpful in a situation that I was in. Okay. So I put this slide earlier, but here are some, and these slides are up on the page for this session. If you go to the slides link, you can get to these links. But if you're going to start doing work in this area and start to dive deep into it, there are some things that you probably really want to take a look at. One is to take a look at file entity and some of what that functionality is. Laid on top of that is going to be media itself. File entity is a dependency for media, so you have to have both of them in addition to views. There was also another effort, and I started down this path at one point. There's a product called Media Front that basically provides its own kind of player for both sound, video, and images. What was nice about it is it created one central location where you could create thumbnails for what you wanted to expose, and then it had a window where you could see that rendering happen. So it's kind of like a kiosk system. one of the problems with it is it seems that it's kind of lost fashion and it's lost support. So there doesn't seem to be any further work that's been done on it since about 2013. And I also found it a little difficult to configure and make work together, getting these thumbnail images to expose in the right way the actual display of the video. That is an option, and I put it there for people to look at. And then, I'll correct this. There is an organization of folks, one of the most prominent people being in it, Dave Reed, but a lot of other important Drupal contributors that are working on a new framework for how, not a new framework, but revising the framework for how media is implemented in Drupal 8. Some of the components of that effort are in place, and some of the pieces are in development. They're thought out, a roadmap has been set, and also in the link that I will update here and will be on the slides, there's some information about how you can actually contribute to that effort and be about part of the sprint process and the idea process for making a difference in Drupal 8. A lot of the, so file entity to some smaller extent is kind of built into Drupal 8. It's not as robust as some of the stuff that's been added with contrib in Drupal 7. And some of the additional functionality is built into newer contrib modules, but it's a little hit and miss about where all of that functionality works well and where it doesn't. So I invite you to kind of take a look through that information and make a decision about where you want to play in the months moving forward. Thank you guys for attending, and I hope you think about think beyond just text and typography, and how a more audio-visual kind of representation can help us communicate and do better work in the Drupal community. Thanks.